Burgess Hotel, huh?
Yeah. I spent my honeymoon here. Actually, 2 of my honeymoons here.
We went to Pittsburgh. It's very much like this. So, how many times you been married, anyway?
5. 6, depending on how you count. Hey, we're up.
Let me ask you something. The divorce is killing me. Do you have any advice?
Yeah, they're all pretty tough. Actually, one wasn't so bad. I signed the papers in front of the church right before the next wedding. I really wanted to sign the papers on the wedding night, but I couldn't find a notary who'd go for it.
Sure, what would he stamp? Well, I'm never getting married again, I'll tell you that.
Sure you are.
No. Never. My wife left me for an audio-video salesman. Do you believe that? I'm a doctor.
That sucks.
What do you do?
Audio-video salesman. I own stores, a chain of stores.
Well, I'm turning over a whole new leaf down here. A completely different approach with women. From now on, I'm paying for it by the night.
I have 2 marriages. Would have worked out a lot cheaper that way. But it's not the ex-wives that are killing me. It's my daughter. She absolutely refuses to talk to me.
I've been there. Just keep trying. She'll come around.
There's one thing I could change. Here we are. Huh? Well, you ready?
I'm terrified, but this is great.
Yeah, right. He died. Parasailing in Mexico. Okay, is this a sequel to last year's motorcycle accident? How did he put you up to this anyway? I don't think I can handle going back for this without you. Are you sure you can take the days off?
Baby, it's not even an issue.
Thank you.
I'm not going back for you. I'm going to meet chicks. All those ex-wives of his, all grief-stricken and vulnerable.
I love you. Oh, is he doing parasailing? God damn him. You know, the last thing I ever said to him was that I never want to see his stupid face again. Oh, God. This is totally him. Drops me an email, says he's in an accident and that he needs my help, and no one answers his damn phone.
I'm sure he's fine, baby. If he wasn't, somebody else would have called too.
Oh, well, I don't want to see them either. I don't want any of it.
Marry me, Barbara Lefay.
You realize you're proposing to me on the phone while I'm pumping gas. How am I supposed to say yes?
Hey, I tried at the beach, I tried at the church, I even tried after sex when I got stuck in that elevator.
Oh, that was you?
Oh, that's very funny.
I even tried on the scoreboard at the Giants game. Everybody says yes when you propose on the scoreboard, but not you.
So why do you keep asking?
Because you never say no.
I always say no.
Yeah, but you never mean it. Listen, it
Can't
can't
be as bad as you remember. You're older, they're older. When's the last time you were back there?
4 years, okay? I haven't even met this wife, Autumn. Her name is Autumn.
Why didn't you go back for the wedding?
It was an impulse thing in Bora Bora, some Polynesian voodoo ceremony. I don't want to be
All
here.
right, stop. Close your eyes. Close them. Take a deep breath. Pretend you're in an elevator.
So stupid.
Trust me, everything's gonna be fine.
Promise?
I promise.
Thank you.
Anytime.
I love you like a fat kid loves cake.
I love you too. Bye. Oh. Great. Great! You better be goddamn seriously injured.
You must be Barbie. I'm Autumn.
It's nice to meet you.
Oh.
Hi.
My gosh, you're practically my age. How old are you?
I'm 28.
Me too.
Get out.
Wow, I love your scarf. Can I borrow it?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
Listen, Henry's upstairs. Your grandma's in the kitchen if you want to say hi while I go grab him.
Oh.
Barbie Rose Lefay.
There's nothing wrong with you. I knew it, you son of a bitch.
Who do you love?
Hi, matey. Henry Lefay here, or should I say, Long Jog Henry Lefay. Maybe I will. We're the best way to save a couple extra doubloons if you're looking for audio, video, electronic equipment. In fact, likely to double your gold savings if you can find a better price anywhere in all the 7 seas or at least anywhere near Ithaca. And you know, this week only, we're going to save you an extra 20% here on these DVD players, just like the crocodile took 20% off me arm.
Long John Henry, we're sinking.
You know, I still write all these myself.
Is that the pirate one?
Yeah, Ma.
How many times do I have to watch that big steaming cow pie?
Mom, you love this.
You said you were in an accident.
When?
In your email, you said you were in a motorcycle accident. You need my help.
I do need your help. But that accident was just a fender bender. Hey, look at the size of this thing. Same guys did the scoreboard at Yankee Stadium. Big image quality. Makes you feel like you're right part of the action. Last night, we're watching Body Heat. I felt like I was banging Kathleen Turner myself.
He did.
How come you didn't return my calls?
Ooh, look at the time. We got to change.
Oh.
I got a gig tonight. I want you to go.
Gig? What do you mean a gig?
You know that I love you. I wanna lay down in your arms.
Well?
That was good. So, how did you guys meet?
Oh, through my parents. Henry used to date my mother. Oh, no, not recently,
Yeah.
when they were in junior high school. But you thought it was something weird.
Weird. No, why?
Look, I know it bothers some people that Henry's twice my age, but guess what? I asked him out. I've always been attracted to more mature men. It's just my thing.
Well, this old dog's not complaining. Barbie doll, this marriage is different. It really is. I'm a man at peace, you know? Just wish I'd met you 25 years ago.
Of course, 25 years ago, she didn't even know how to wipe herself.
She does now.
Daddy, why do you need my help?
It's the business. Veronica's gotten totally impossible. You know, she's never forgiven me for leaving her. And now she's squeezing me with her 50%. We don't see eye to eye on anything. But she's always liked you. Plus, you got that MBA I bought you.
You didn't buy me an MBA.
You know what I'm talking about. I just figure you could help us iron some things out. And in the meantime, while you're here, you can get to know your new stepmom.
Nobody knows us there.
They will, darling, they will.
Henry, I lived in New York City. They laugh at you.
With me. They always laugh with me.
Barbie?
Really want my advice?
Yeah.
Yes.
My advice is one of you should sell out your share to the other and be done with it.
I've offered. She won't buy, she won't sell. She's holding on out of sheer ornery spite.
Come on. Barbie's here. Let's do this.
Fine.
Do what?
Stockholders meeting. I'm here representing my 50%.
And I'm here representing mine.
Okay, what's the first thing they do at stockholders meeting?
Approval of the minutes of the last meeting.
There was no last meeting.
Then it's approved.
All right, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, old business?
No old business.
New business.
I move that both Henry Lefay and Veronica Jaramillo each make a gift of 1% of common stock in the company to one Barbara Lefay.
To me.
Motion approved. I need a second. I'll second it. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Wait. Why are you giving me stock?
He hasn't explained this to you? Classic. You are as bad a partner as you were a husband. Did you know he actually cheated during our wedding reception?
Technically, that was not cheating, since I was married to her before I was married to you.
Pero ¿cómo que no me estabas engañando el día de mi boda?
Please, English. I love when you curse at me in English.
Why are you giving me stock? Hello?
Henry wants to do a Martin Luther King Day sale.
Yeah.
It's offensive.
No, it's not offensive. It's to get a jump on President's Day. If you just think outside the box for once, V, just for once. Abe Lincoln, Martin Luther King, two of the same kind. Great Americans shot down by racist assassin, both get their own holiday. What about that doesn't scream 20% off? But New York first, please, let's vote on it. My 49% says let's expand.
49 opposed.
Don't look at me. I don't care.
You gotta care. That's why we gave you the 2%.
So what? I get deciding vote on everything, and you guys give me no arguments.
Agreed.
That's the deal.
Okay, fine. Forget the city. It's an awful idea.
Thank you.
An inventory-driven business like this, starting up one store in a major market, you couldn't possibly afford the media plan to justify that.
What did I tell you?
But V, as for marketing and advertising, my 2% goes behind Dad. No matter how stupid or offensive his ideas may be, he's made you rich off making a fool out of himself, so deal with it. Martin Luther King Day? Knock yourself out. I'm sure I'm not making either one of you happy, but that is my 2% worth, and if you don't like it, you can take your damn stock back and leave me alone.
I'm happy.
That's good.
Yeah. Hey, don't walk away so fast. You're my only child. I never get to see you. And besides, I know it was crappy how I tricked you coming down here, so I'd like to make it up to you. Blue skies smiling at me. Nothing but blue skies do I see. I've arranged a day of beauty for you.
A day of beauty?
Don't get all big city on me, Barbie doll. Remember where you came from. Terry Lee's House of Beauty, 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. It's all reserved and paid for. Just you and Autumn.
Me and Autumn. Terrific. Look, Dad, I really got to go back.
Listen, I need you to do this for me. Autumn really respects you.
Here it comes.
I want you to tell her I want a divorce.
A divorce? I'm not telling her that.
Right. It's probably something I should tell her. But you can tee it up for me. You can tell her what a sleazebag I am. You're my daughter. It'll mean something coming from you.
Daddy, if you don't respect the institution of marriage, at least respect what it means to the people you marry.
I respect the institution of marriage. I respect the living crap out of it. But this one was a mistake. I knew it coming down the aisle. There wasn't even an aisle. It was a dirt path. Polynesian witch doctor holding us upside down and shaking us. I don't even think this one was legal.
This is wife number 5, Daddy, and you haven't even been married a year yet. Look, she's way too young, but she seems like a really sweet girl, and she's obviously crazy about you. You can't take the easy way out this time. Why don't you try marriage counseling? Try whatever you have to. But this time, you have to get serious about yourself and at least try.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I should do whatever it takes to make this one work.
And I bet you'll be happy in the end. And this is something that could change everything in your life.
There's just one problem.
What is that?
I'm already engaged to somebody else.
What?
Yes, I know, but this gal, she's like a wildcat in the sack. This is the one that'll finally screw your old man into the ground.
Daddy, I'm your daughter.
What?
Dad, you cannot have a new fiance. You are married to Autumn.
That's why I need your help. Who do you love?
Just stop in at the store up here. I was gonna get Mom a present. You wanna come in?
Nah, I'm just gonna wait for you out here.
Okay.
Oh, good. I found you, you lying scumbucket.
Hey. Why are we throwing teddy bears at me?
I'm giving you back everything you ever gave me, son of a jackass.
What did I do?
You were sleeping with your wife while we were still married.
My wife?
Autumn, you told me you didn't even meet her until after we were divorced.
Which divorce, the first or the second one?
Oh, you liar. Our mutual colorist told me the whole sordid tale. I don't want any of this anymore. Nothing from our vacations, nothing from your stupid commercials. Oh, especially this.
What the hell?
Wait. I bought you this?
Of course you did. When we went to St. Lucia and we snuck off to the dormant volcano just before midnight, you gave it to me to wear under my dress.
I've never been to St. Lucia.
Okay, show's over. Yeah, keep moving, people. Thank you. Stop staring.
I'll talk to you. I got an idea. Lunch?
Didn't know she was in town?
No.
Hey, you guys.
Well. Hey, Barbie Lefay. God, we are all getting older, aren't we?
Sarah Jane. And you. I remember you.
Hey, Barbie. How are you?
So, what brings the big girl back to the small town?
I'm just straightening out some family stuff.
With what? A faith healer?
Well, I see all those years since high school haven't affected your charm.
I hear you're living in California now. It's some big business.
It's kind of a consulting firm. What are you doing?
I'm still over at Friendly Freddy's. Yeah.
Okay.
I manage it now.
Well, some things don't change much at all. Some things do.
I have a dream that one day, this Saturday, as a matter of fact, you can save up to 10% on big screen TV. My dream is that this Martin Luther King Day, you can exercise your civil rights by marching over to Henry Lefay's for big savings on audio equipment. My dream is that if you're looking for the best prices on portable DVD players, nobody has to ride at the back of the bus. And this weekend only, delivery is finally free at last. Thank God Almighty, it's free at last.
He was young and handsome and just plain or more fun than any man I had ever met.
So you went out with him, I get that. You had a good time, but you had to have seen what he was like. Why would you marry him?
Do you remember that big stuffed pig that was in your bedroom when you were little?
Yeah.
That big, hideous thing. Do you know where that came from? One time, when we were engaged, Henry took me to the carnival, and we played that game, the one where you squirt the water gun into the clown's mouth, and you win a little stuffed animal. And if you keep playing, you get a bigger stuffed animal. Well, Henry played for hours and spent God knows how many dollars until he won that grotesque, enormous stuffed pig. So he decides it's going to be part of the family. And we take it everywhere. It goes on all of our dates. It even goes to my mother's house. My mother's house. Thanksgiving, okay? Makes her set him a plate, ties a napkin around his neck. Sure enough, you know, we get on the plane to go to Hawaii for our honeymoon. And there, in the window seat, next to us, is the pig. Henry bought it a ticket, arranged the whole thing.
Wow.
I don't know what happened to that ugly old pig. Look, baby, I know it's hard. But I really want you to go over to your father's house and make things better. Find a way.
Get away from me! Put on that knife! Help! Police! Fire department! Anybody!
Oh, not this again.
Help! 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 Dead! You are dead! Oh, crap!
What? Oh.
Hey, Barbie.
Hi. You are really dead! I mean it, Henry! This time I'm going to cut it off! Where are you?
National Guard! Paramedics!
Hey, Barbie, when'd you get into town?
A couple days ago.
One of the neighbors called in. What's going on?
Well, Ophelia's chasing my dad around with a carving knife.
You know, when they got divorced, I thought these calls would stop.
Well, we can dream, can't we?
I knew you'd run out of wind, you tired old goat!
Hey, look. They're naked this time.
Okay, so Henry and I were involved in, let me say this tastefully, ORAL, and he answered his cell phone.
Ugh.
And then he tries to explain it away by saying it was his fiancée.
It was.
You have a fiancé?
Okay, speaking of fiancés and wives, where is Autumn?
She volunteers at the food bank one night a week.
How convenient.
Isn't it?
Look, can I just get a minute alone with my father?
I best get going anyway. Can you give me a ride home, honey? But first be a dear and help me find my bra.
What are you doing screwing around with Ophelia when you're engaged to someone else? When you're married to someone else?
She came over here. She wanted to get it on. What am I supposed to say?
No?
Barbie doll, you don't understand. Around Ophelia, I'm powerless. Seriously. I know she's wacky as a water bug. She's probably gonna kill me in my sleep. But when that woman gets around me, I turn into jelly.
So why are you engaged to another woman? Why don't you just marry Ophelia for the third time and make it stick?
You saw her chase me around here naked with a butcher knife. You know what we used to call that when we were married?
What?
Tuesday. God help me, that crazy-ass blonde is the only one that matters. That woman is hands down, without a question, the one true love of my life.
Aww. You're the one true love of my life, too, honey. Oh, isn't he adorable? Oh, Barbie, did your dad tell you about our day of beauty?
Oh, you know what, Autumn? It sounds great, but I gotta go home and...
Barbie doll, you don't have to leave yet. How could you break this little girl's heart?
You know, your dad's been so encouraging about me redecorating his house and making it my own. I was thinking of the little room off the kitchen area, making it into a little breakfast nook where we could snuggle up in the morning with our coffee and read the paper.
Listen, Autumn, just be careful about idolizing my father. You know his history with women, right?
It's the age thing, isn't it? I mean, you can't seem to get past that, can you?
No, it's not that. I mean, there is that, but I'm worried about you making plans and...
Barbie, forgive me for saying so, but I think I know him a little bit better than you do at this point. And with men of his type, I mean, sometimes you just have to catch them at the right age when they're finally ready to settle down. I mean, at heart, Henry is a true romantic. I know that it sounds crazy, but why do you think he's gotten married so many times? He honestly believes that there's such a thing as happily ever after.
Owie, owie, ouch, is what you gotta say. Owie, owie, ouch, it helps the hurting go away.
Can I help you, miss?
What do you think that kid could be thinking?
Oh, I know what he's thinking. He's thinking no one is ever gonna have sex with me.
You used to have that job.
And you used to be that girl right over there watching.
that what you were thinking?
Maybe. Did you ever get married?
No. Boyfriend. Yeah. So, what's the deal with you and Sarah Jane? Wasn't expecting that. How long you guys been together?
No, no. She was just pulling your chain. We're not together. Hey, and anyway, let's see where you got called to say anything about that after the way you broke my heart.
What do you mean, the way I broke your heart? You dumped me.
After I heard about you and Johnny Ferrigno on the band trip.
Johnny Ferrigno. Barely remember that. I made out with him, didn't I?
That's what I was told. I know why he did it, too.
Is that a fact?
It is. We were getting towards the end of senior year, and you thought I was going to ask you to marry me. Hey, I was no fool, Barbie. Anybody could take one look at you and see that you weren't going to spend the rest of your life in a town this size with a kid named Stevie Peavy who danced with a drunken elephant. Is that right?
I could tell you were the type that wanted to settle down and get married early. You always had that serious side.
Yeah, I guess maybe I did.
So, who is the lucky girl that actually got you?
Nobody. Nobody even close.
I should go. It was nice seeing you. Why do I have to do this?
Come on. This is going to be your new stepmom. Think about Autumn.
What?
With Autumn, I almost got married and divorced before you even got a chance to meet her. I don't want to let that happen again.
I feel like I'm cheating here. I don't even know this one's name. I'm assuming you do.
Her name? She did this thing last night that made me forget my name. There's the little princess right now. Honey, meet your new stepmom. Hi, baby.
Hi, Barbie.
Wait a minute, you were Sarah Jane's babysitter? How did I not know that?
Were you aware of anything that happened to me when I was 13?
And then I was 3 years behind Barbie in high school. Honey, I told you this whole thing on our first date. Don't you remember?
Yeah, well, on our first date, my mind was already south of the border, if you know what I mean.
Lovely.
Well, this doesn't bother you, does it, Barbie? Your father and me?
Bother me? Not at all.
Because if it did, well, that would kind of suck for you.
Don't worry, Mommy. I'll be fine. Have you guys talked about a prenup yet?
I don't think this is really the
No, honey, that's okay. Look, I understand that you're skeptical. Your dad walked out on you when you were a kid, and we all knew that that left you with some major trust issues, which probably screw up every relationship you've ever had, even to this day.
Daddy? Outside. Now!
Blue sky
Oh,
smiling at me.
Don't even think of trying to charm your way out of this one.
Sarah Jane just likes to talk too much, that's all.
She's a bitch on wheels, okay? Ever since high school, she was a freshman. I didn't invite her to some party. I don't even know what I did. Just don't expect me to be nice to her.
Just give it time. Everything has a way of working itself out.
No, things don't work themselves out. What happens is you do what suits you at the moment, and then you assume someone's gonna come along and clean up your mess. And someone always does. Usually me.
Okay, come back inside. I'll buy you one of those molten chocolate cakes.
A molten chocolate?
I'm sure you'll like Sarah Jane once you get to know her better. Don't call her Mommy. It seemed to really tick her off.
I am so done with this.
Come on, Barbie doll. Who do you love?
I got a noon flight out of Ithaca tomorrow, and I don't ever want to see your stupid face again. This is gonna be a circus, you have no idea.
All right, I'll buy us some cotton candy. We'll be fine. Guess he wasn't too hung up on the whole PC thing, huh?
Oh, baby. Hi, I'm Kate.
Lloyd, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Sorry, it's not under happier circumstances. Oh, sweetie, come here. Oh. How long has it been since you talked to your father?
Oh, about a year. He tricked me into coming in last fall.
My condolences. I'm sure this is rough on you too.
Oh, I did all my crying over losing Henry Lefay a long time ago.
I won't be selfish about Henry's memory. He spent the earlier stages of his life with several other women, and I want to make sure that they're treated like family at the viewings and sitting up front with us at the funeral.
That'll mean a lot to my mom and the others. A lot of women would be more jealous about his past.
I'm very secure in the journey that Henry and I shared together. There's no point in troubling myself over what he experienced before we even met.
What is the granola queen going on about now?
Autumn is talking about Henry.
Henry's dead. What's she saying?
That they had a good marriage.
Just don't let her sell you any crystals.
Oh, okay.
Are you hungry, May, or thirsty?
What?
Can I get you something to eat or drink?
Don't shout at me. Get me some water. Where's Henry?
He's gone, Grandma. He passed away.
I'm gonna get you that water. Okay? I'm gonna grab that.
That's good. Okay. What can I do to help with the arrangements? Because I know Dad never thought he was ever gonna die, so I'm sure there's a lot of things that need to be figured out.
It's all under control. Henry made all the arrangements in advance. It's one of the many ways your father changed in the time since you've known him. I think that Henry's spiritual quest was brought on in part by a sense that a transition might be coming. He wrote me the most beautiful letter, outlining all the details of the funeral that he wanted, pallbearers, music, everything. We even picked out a plot at Shady Glen under a great white oak, where someday I'll rest beside him. And really, the only problem has been getting the American consulate in Mexico to help us get his body released and shipped up here, but Veronica's taking care of that.
He's still in Mexico? Wait, I'm surprised that you would come back without him.
Oh, I wasn't in Mexico with him. No, that trip was something that Henry had to do on his own, sort of a spiritual retreat. But between you and me, there was something going on down there, some element of his quest that he didn't want me to know about. I think he might have found some sort of shaman, or maybe even started experimenting with peyote.
Peyote my ass. He was in Mexico screwing someone else, and the bimbo ran home and left his body to rot.
Any suspects?
Wife number 2. Wife number 4.
Wait a minute, isn't that the same person?
Welcome to the circus.
Hello, Ophelia? It's Barbara. Are you in here? Hello? Oh, boy.
God, you look just like him. What's gonna happened to us, huh? You know I never stopped loving that man, no matter who he was married to, no matter who I was married to.
Oh, it's okay.
Oh.
It's okay. It's okay.
And who is this tall, handsome prince?
That's my boyfriend, Lloyd. Lloyd, say hello to Ophelia.
Charmed.
Not half as much as I am. Can I get you a glass of Cabernet, Lloyd? It's too bad you weren't in town last week. You could have watched me star in our local production of Grease. Ooh, I got to relive high school.
I'm sure that was really something to see.
Well, maybe when this is all done, I'll give you a little private sample. Okay. Barbie, we should talk about funeral arrangements.
Actually, aside from getting his body back into the country, Autumn has it all under control. Daddy worked everything out in advance, right down to the burial plots.
Burial plots? No. Henry wanted to be cremated.
Get the cotton candy ready.
He wrote me this beautiful letter specifying exactly how he wanted his funeral, down to the smallest detail. He didn't trust Autumn to do it right, I'm sure. No, Henry wanted to be cremated and have his ashes spread over the ocean from a catamaran off the Bahamas.
You have this in writing.
He once made love there on one of those. Anyway, talk to the other wives. Ask Veronica. She saw him every day. I'm sure she knew he wanted to be cremated. Lloyd.
Yeah.
Have you ever experienced pleasure just inches away from a live barracuda?
Honey, if we...
I walked away 1,000 times a day. I try to forget this love astray. I wander through the wilderness to forget what is.
Come inside.
Look, why don't you go downstairs and check out the new iPods?
Okay, but if there's gonna be a seance, I want to watch this.
Go. I'll be there in a few. Oy. Veronica, hi.
I'm grateful to have you near. Such a painful time.
Yeah. You're taking this a lot harder than I expected. Considering that you guys spent pretty much the last 10 years at each other's throats.
We remained business partners for so long because we were the best of friends underneath.
Can I ask you something? Did Daddy want to be cremated?
No. What would you think that?
That's what Ophelia says.
Ophelia is a manipulative lunatic. Henry wanted to be buried at Pleasant Meadows.
At Pleasant Meadows? Yeah. Autumn said that they have plots together at Shady Glen.
We have plots side by side at Pleasant Meadows. Henry wanted us to be buried next to one another.
Yeah, but Autumn is his wife.
Yeah, please. Nobody takes that seriously. ¿Sí? Oh. No entiendo. ¿Qué misterio?
American Consulate in Mexico.
Sí, claro, cómo no. Espero. Ajá. Oh. So you're trying to locate the woman who'd been staying at the hotel with him? Oh. Excellent. Gracias por su ayuda. Adiós. Ha! They didn't want to release the body if the woman he was staying with was still in Mexico. But because they can't even figure out who the hell she is, they've decided to turn him over to us. He'll be in the country tonight and at the Ithaca airport in the morning.
Okay, this is good news, I guess.
Yeah, good news that they're sending him back. Awful news that he was down there with somebody.
don't know if I'm ready to see your dad in a casket.
You won't have to. It's closed.
Closed?
Well, everyone had a different opinion, so I suggested that we close it, at least for now. I think it's barbaric that people want to look at the body anyway.
Yeah, but if he's been in an accident, they want to know that he's okay.
Ms. Lefay, I'm John Goodenough from the funeral home. If there's anything we can do, please see me directly.
Thank you.
I did not have the privilege of knowing your father personally, but from everything I've been hearing, it's clear he brought a lot of love to a lot of people.
You have no idea.
While I have you, would you happen to know if there's been a resolution regarding the cemetery? I have been told it's Pleasant Meadows. I've also been told it's Shady Glen.
I know you think Henry wanted to be buried in Shady Glen.
He did want to be buried at Shady Glen. We picked out those plots only last year.
But he kept at the payment on Pleasant Meadows. Even after that, I can show you the council checks.
Veronica, I appreciate that you were Henry's partner, but please don't forget that I was his wife.
Please keep your voices down.
Has anyone here happened to speak to the American consulate in Mexico?
No. Why?
Barbie?
Not now.
What?
Really, Mom, later.
Please.
Apparently, Daddy wasn't alone in Mexico.
I knew it. Was he with some sort of shaman?
There was a woman staying with him at the hotel. And they couldn't find her, and they don't know who she was. Autumn. Okay, maybe we should give you some time to yourself, okay? So, Mom, Grandma, V, let's go.
It's all mine. The will says every last penny goes to me. Henry's half of the business, everything. I even have half interest in those precious plots of yours at Pleasant Goddamn Meadows, and the only thing going into the ground come Friday is worms. Or your bones, bitch, if you try and cross me.
Hello. Sorry I'm late. Who's in charge here?
John Goodenough, the funeral director.
Ophelia Parker, the bereaved. Well, the most deeply bereaved, I'm sure. Listen, I bet a good-looking fellow like yourself would know where to get a lady of vodka Collins.
Excuse me?
With lime. Thank you, darling. And some McNuggets. I get hungry when I drink. Where is he? Henry? The body?
Oh, in the viewing room.
Thank you ever so much. Oh, and 2 extra thingies of that tangy honey mustard sauce. Thank you, gorgeous. Oh, were you all waiting for me? Henry. Closed casket. I didn't realize it was this bad.
I wanted a closed casket because I believe when someone dies, he deserves his privacy and not to be gawked at.
So he wasn't disfigured?
No.
Oh, thank God. Look at us here together. It's like the reunion we never had. Let's hold hands. Come on, for Henry. We have things we share in common with nobody else in the world. We've all known the better. We've all known the worst. Of all 4 of Henry Lefay's marriages.
5.
Oh, yes. 2 of which were to me, of course, which does give me a sort of seniority.
Screw you.
Honey, I'm just trying to say that though we all may think we know how Henry wanted to say goodbye to this earth, he did write it all down for me in a deeply personal letter. So I stopped and I made copies on the way. That's why I was late.
I've got my own letter too. Exactly like this. In mine, he wanted a Catholic priest.
Did you say Catholic? In a pig's eye.
Time out. I'm the current wife. I'm making the decisions about the ceremony.
You know, a good compromise would be his childhood pastor.
If I wanted your opinion, I would have asked for it. Get it?
May I say something about the casket?
What about the casket?
I think it should be open. People want to see that he's all right.
Mom, would you stop saying that? It's screwed up.
No, I agree with Kate. Open, open, open.
I am the wife. Me. I make all the decisions about everything.
Fine. But Henry did want to be cremated.
Well, that's not happening.
Well, it's what he wanted.
Nobody is getting cremated, so just stick it up your ass! Whoa! Oh, no, 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 no. Hey! Hey! Don't. You're gonna tip it over. You! I got it. Let go of him. Let go. Whoa! Okay.
Strong.
Oh, Daddy, Daddy, Daddy. What have you done now?
It's not right. You're not supposed to bury your own children.
You raised a great man.
I raised a selfish prick. But he was always good to me, so that's something.
Yes.
Hello. Is Henry Lefay in this box?
Yes.
Oh. You mind if I just stand here with you for a bit?
No, 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 not at all. I'm Barbara Lefay, Henry's daughter.
How nice to finally meet you. I'm Effa Devereaux. I was Henry's very first wife. Well, I'm sure some of you know about the time that Henry dropped out of college and went to Chicago to try to be a blues musician. Well, the very week that boy got into town, I ain't gonna lie, he knocked me right off my feet. But pretty soon, I could see he didn't belong in Chicago with or without me. So after 3 months, we got an annulment, and I sent him back home to New York. Never saw Henry Lefay or heard his voice again.
There are no paper towels in the ladies' room.
Grandma, she doesn't work here.
I'm sorry, but I must ask you straight out. What exactly do you want here?
You must be Veronica. Well, I don't want anything at all. In fact, I bet you dollars to donuts I'm the only person in this room that doesn't have a will in her purse with her name on it. Henry Lefay never gave me nothing. And I don't expect nothing from him now. Would you happen to be Kate? Yeah. You know, I'd imagine this shock is the biggest for you. Woman thinks she's a man's first wife. It's got to be mighty unsettling to find out she isn't. You know, I truly regret any pain this causes you.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah.
If you've been out of touch with my father since Chicago, how do you know so much about all of us?
The internet, honey. Yes, ma'am. About 5 years ago, out of the blue, don't you know, Henry Lefay up and tracks me down and sends me an email. Just wanted to know whatever happened to me, you know, what my life had been like. And, you know, one thing led to another, and we've been emailing each other ever since, every day.
Every day?
Every day.
Get out.
When I didn't hear from him a few days, I just got this bad feeling, and I thought, I better give that boy a Google. And sure enough, well, y'all know the rest.
Apparently, Henry's had all kinds of secrets. I mean, there's no reason not to believe this one.
Oh, not so fast. How do we know this isn't some kind of a scam? That you're not inserting yourself into Henry's life under false pretenses just so you can get something from us later?
Oh, you mean like the time you pretended you were pregnant so Henry could leave Veronica and marry your bony ass a second time? 'Cause you are Ophelia, aren't you?
You've come a long way today, Effa. I bet you're hungry.
You know what, girl? I am feeling like a little pie with some ice cream. You know where I could get some?
There's a diner across the green where they make a mean Dutch apple.
For real?
My treat.
Oh, cool.
Anything that you want for yourself, you can have. Thanks.
Good morning. You're here very early.
I asked everyone to come an hour before the viewing so that we could figure out the minister issue. Are the others here?
No, you're the first. Would you like to wait in the study?
Actually, if you guys don't mind, I'd like a few minutes alone with Dad. Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
No.
How long were you and Henry together?
Oh, 15 years.
Oh,
and,
wow.
Yeah, it was crazy 15 years, too, I'll tell you.
Where's what's his name? The funeral guy. What about Ophelia? Have you seen her? No?
Baby?
Wait. Whatever you do, do not let Autumn into the viewing room.
Why not? Why not let Autumn in the viewing room?
Wait a second. Wait, don't. Come here. Wait.
Who did this?
Oh. Autumn. Hang on a second. Hey. Wait. Hey, come on. Really, Autumn? Who said that you could cremate him?
One of the ex-wives.
Ophelia?
Yes, Ophelia, that was her. Well, I had no choice once the forms were signed.
Ophelia has no legal standing. Autumn is his wife.
Well, Ophelia brought me the form signed by Autumn.
She forged her signature?
I had no way of knowing that. Stay away from the hearse! No! It's a classic!
I never give my car to the valet.
I want this woman arrested and charged with unlawful incineration. Well, my husband was just lying there, minding his own business, and you should arrest him too, because he was on the
righteous about fossil fuels.
Cool it, all of you.
I guess what I really need to know is, do any of you want me to press charges?
Oh, yes!
I want you to press charges.
And
These women are destroying.
That's real good, Barbie. Can you show me how to do that?
Maybe after the funeral, but here's what I'm thinking, Pinky. We should charge her for attempted homicide with a hybrid, and her for cremation fraud, and him for aiding and abetting a forger.
Are those even laws?
Do you want to find out?
Not really.
So, as far as the criminal justice system is concerned, I think we should just all pretend that this never happened.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know. Okay.
Thank you, Pinky.
Great to see you again. Real sorry about your dad.
Officer.
You better watch it.
Get in there now. Now you listen to me, and you listen to me good. I intend to send my father off with a modicum of dignity. That is what I owe him, and I am going to give him that, come hell or high water. So that means no more surprise cremations, okay? No more demolition derby with the hearses. No more anything except quiet, dignified, respectable mourning. Have I made myself clear?
Yes.
All right, then.
And just so I make myself clear, we're spreading Henry's ashes in Bora Bora.
The hell we are.
That's where he was happiest.
Guys, please.
This coffee table is awfully dusty. You should use pledge.
Somebody better talk to this woman.
Grandma.
Henry never gave a damn about Bora Bora. He wanted to be scattered over the Pacific from a catamaran.
He should be buried at Pleasant Meadows.
You mean bury his ashes?
Would you give us a minute? We'll be in the viewing room soon.
I know I'm intruding, but I'm actually kind of glad to find you guys all here together. I was the one who was with Henry in Mexico. Who are you?
I was Henry's first wife.
Well, I was going to be his last wife. Tell him, Barbie.
It sucks. I'm so sorry.
It's all just too much for one day. I mean, I just lost my husband. And then someone goes in and burns him up. And then I find out that he was gonna leave me. And you knew.
Put yourself in my shoes. Yes, I knew about her, but my loyalty has to be to my dad. And I didn't know that Sarah Jane was the one with him in Mexico.
You mean there were others? Oh my God. Oh no. He really was happy when we were in Bora Bora. I'm sure of it.
I am too.
That's why I want to spread his ashes there. I think that it's where he should live forever.
I remember him happiest in Yosemite. He took me hiking there when I was 10. And he and my mother were still together. Up near Sentinel Dome, and he sat on the ground. And I sat in his lap, and we looked out into the mountains forever. And I don't remember any other time him holding me nearly that long. He had such an enormous spirit. What if he could rest forever in all of those different places? What if we divided up his ashes and each of us scattered a part of him in a place we remember him being happy? Because if anyone deserves that kind of goodbye, it was Daddy, right? I'm sorry.
How did you know my mother?
Okay, so we have a new plan for Daddy's ashes. Where's Ophelia?
She's in the viewing room. She wanted to be near him.
And we didn't mind.
Okay, let's go in there then. Ophelia?
Oh, there she is. Come on! Ophelia, no te lleves a Henry!
For what it's worth, I think Henry's ashes should be sprayed in Cancun. Do not make me hurt you.
Give me my Henry! Ophelia!
Stop! Oh, Jesus,
What the hell do you think you're doing?
Henry wanted to be spread over the Pacific, and I am not going to let some little Janie come lately take him to Bora Bora, where he doesn't even speak the language.
Give him to me!
You know, some guys get turned on by this sort of thing. I mean, not me. I'm just saying some guys. Wait, no, right here. Go!
So, what do we do now?
We could buy another urn. Maybe something a little sturdier.
And leave it up there empty?
We could put something else in it.
Like what, M&Ms? What's the point? There's nothing left of him.
Oh, Henry, I'm sorry I didn't spring for the ornate brass. You'd still be here now.
He'd still be dead.
Shut your face, you castrating Mexican twit!
I am Spanish.
No! Stop.
What in the sweet love of Jesus are you people doing? You people are the worst fucking bereaved I have ever seen in my life!
Excuse me. I've been conferring with Father Houlihan, and I believe we've found a way to blend the Catholic and Presbyterian ceremonies. But the Polynesian holy man just arrived, and we were wondering how you'd like us to work him into the service.
She sees him laying in the bed alone tonight. Only thin, a touching hymns of crack of light. Pieces of her hair are wrapped around and round his fingers. And you are not alone, laying in the light. Put out the fire in your head and lay with me tonight.
O God, whose mercies cannot be numbered, accept our prayers in behalf of your servant, Henry Lefay. Amen. Amen. And now, if you'll turn to page 297 in your hymnals, I can hear my Savior calling.
You son of a bitch.
But on that morning, Sarah Jane can't get herself out of bed. I'm thinking to myself, when's the next time I'm gonna be in Cancun? So with or without her, I'm going parasailing. So I hire this family firm that pulls you right up the beach behind their boat. They don't speak much English. I'm with two couples, both on their honeymoon, and this single guy. Guy's name is Lipschitz. He's getting over a divorce by working his way through every hooker in Cancun. Heck of a guy. My safety vest's a little tight, so Lipschitz switches with me. I go up, have a great time. It's really a lot of fun. He goes up with the vest I just had on. Just had this thing on. Something snaps. He falls like 150 feet in the water. Smack, they pull him out. The guy's dead. He's dead. I mean, I freak out. I lose it. That could have been me, I'm thinking. That just could have been me. I took off, you know, I left my ID there. All I had was my little fanny pack with a couple $100, which in Mexico buys a lot of tequila. Next thing you know, I wake up passed out in the backseat of a car in Tampico. I tried to call you, but the hotel said you already left.
Well, I figured you walked out on me. So after 2 days, I had to get back to work, so I checked out and went home alone.
Wait. How did we hear that Daddy died?
The Mexicans, they must have thought Lipschitz was me and that I was Lipschitz.
Well, how did you get home from Mexico?
It's just dumb luck. The border guard supervisor grew up around here, remembers me from all those commercials.
Why wouldn't you give someone a call?
Well, at this point, I didn't realize that anybody thought I was dead. And who am I going to call anyway? When I got home this morning, I get to the house, caterer setting up for a party. Woohoo! What's going on? They're all at your funeral, he says. Well, I got to go see this. So I put on my suit, and here I am.
So this Lipschitz, his family doesn't know.
And we've cremated him.
And scattered his ashes all over a gas station.
All right. I got an idea. I think you should come home with me. I'll have your bag sent back. Come on.
I want to spend one great day with my grandmother.
Okay. Okay. I love you.
Love you too.
Listen, I gotta say this. Before this week, I thought you were amazing. You know that. But after watching everything you did in the midst of all this insanity, somehow holding it together, I have a whole new respect for you. They say, for better or for worse, what is worse than this? And you were flawless. God damn it, woman, marry me.
Are you out of your mind? Look at my family. Look at every marriage I grew up around. I mean...
So what are you saying? You never want to get married no matter what?
I'm saying I never want to marry wrong. Lloyd, no. That's not what I meant. Lloyd!
Hey.
2 minutes.
Don't even think about it.
Oh. This is ridiculous. I didn't like the way I left you last time. And then when I thought you were gone, This is like a second chance for us, you know? I know we got off track when I was a teenager, and I know we'll never be normal father and daughter. But, you know, maybe we can be some kind of friends.
Right. Okay. To a new beginning.
A new beginning.
Quite a funeral, huh? What's with the medicine man? What was that all about?
You mean the Polynesian holy man? Autumn said that he performed your wedding in Bora Bora.
That was the guy? He had a red face. Our wedding had a blue face. Could have been a red face. That's pretty shit face. When I do go, no holy men of any kind. I'll just leave you some instructions on what to do with me.
You gave everyone instructions, okay, Dad? You got yourself buried at 2 different cemeteries and your ashes scattered off a catamaran.
I'll just date your instructions so everybody knows it's the latest version. If Sarah Jane or anybody else shows up with a later one, you can fight them tooth and nail. Just tell them it's
Daddy,
all...
this is exactly what I'm asking you to stop doing to me.
Right. Yeah. Got it. Have you talked to Autumn? How pissed is she?
On a scale of 1 to 10 million?
Gals are a lot tougher to deal with during a divorce when they're angry. That's how Veronica ended up with half of the company. That's why I was hoping you could kind of talk to Autumn a little bit, you know, smooth things out. And you might want to get a hold of that Lipschitz family. Let them know what happened.
Me?
I can't call them. They're liable to be kind of pissed off. And don't mention that cremation thing. I don't think Jewish people like that even when it's the right body. We have no ashes. You'll think of something.
Goodbye.
What?
Goodbye. I'm going back to California.
Barbie.
Listen to me.
Barbara.
You're never gonna change, Dad, and if you don't change, I'm gonna lose my mind. God, I love you, Dad. I love you more than you could possibly realize. But don't follow me. And don't sing.
Oh, hey, sweetheart. Look, there's something I need to talk to you about.
It's pretty serious, so I wanted to wait till after the funeral.
What?
I'm done. I only come here to tell you that I am out of here for good.
What do you mean for good?
I've had it, Mom. Taking care of Daddy every minute, whether he's alive or not, fixing everything that he breaks.
Oh, grow up. Huh? Do you think you're the only person with a family? Roll with it. You've gotten so self-centered.
What are you talking about?
Making the whole funeral about yourself.
About me?
Yes. How are you going to give your father some dignity in death that he didn't have in life? How narcissistic.
I was the one making this about myself? What about those crazy women that almost spilled that poor Lipschitz guy out of his coffin and then cremated him, huh?
They were just a bunch of sad women trying to mourn the best way they could.
Why are you so damn accepting all the time? Even of Ophelia, after everything that happened back then. Why can't you just show some spine for once instead of being the world's biggest doormat?
Spine? You want me to show you some spine? My daughter will not speak to me that way. If this is your big permanent exit out of New York, why don't you just go back to San Francisco right now? Is that some spine for you? Is that enough spine?
Lobster Fest. At Henry Lefay, it's lobster season, so don't get crabby.
I think when you get to be a certain age, God starts to make you forget. Because if you had to hold on to all those memories, it would just be too much to bear.
Listen, why don't you tell me a memory you haven't told me? A happy one, huh?
Well, how about, Hawaii?
You were on vacation?
No, I lived there.
You lived in Hawaii. When?
During the war, after Pearl Harbor. I lived near the naval base. Oh, we had such fun. I worked for this club, and the sailors would come in on leave. They paid us, and we split 60-40 with the house.
Well, what, the soldiers paid you for what, to dance?
Good heavens, no. It was wartime. You get a sailor on leave. They're not interested in dancing. Oh.
What are you saying? That you were a hooker?
No, I was a party girl.
What's the difference?
That was much more patriotic. Oh, this was so sweet of you to find all this time for me. Especially since your mother's in the hospital.
What? In the hospital? What do you mean?
She went into St. Joe's this morning for that biopsy. You know that.
Oh, God. How did you? The doctor said it went well.
Huh?
Mom, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry, too.
You got a bad deal, huh? Spending all those years alone with just me.
My life hasn't been that bad. You make decisions and things work out how they work out. You know, when you go to a restaurant and your food comes and you realize that you've ordered badly. That was me. I ordered badly. That's all.
Well, you can bet I won't make that mistake.
No. You'll make the other mistake.
What other mistake? Excuse me, visiting hours are over. I'll be quick. I'm just gonna say goodnight to my mother.
I pretend that I am strong, being far from you, staying gone, moving on. I am putting on a face, and there is no one here that can take your place. But you're the reason the glass is never full. Steady leaving without reason, lacking empathy. I'm half empty. I am the one that breaks the law, seizing the moment right before we
Hey.
lose it all.
I was just closing up.
Can I come in?
Yeah. Sure.
I salvage memories 'cause we've both made mistakes.
You wouldn't believe it, but in California, I'm a very together person.
Believe it. I used to know you pretty well.
Oh, man. What a week. You have no idea. My father's dead. My father's not dead. My mother's sick, and grandmother's a horror. You know what? This is exactly how I felt with Johnny Frigno. It was like I was trying to find my way out of something.
what she meant. There's ordering badly, and the other mistake is not ordering at all.
Okay,
Please don't hate me.
I tried that once. Didn't work.
Lloyd, listen, there's, something I want to talk to you about. Lloyd, let me call you back.
Blue skies, smiling at me. Nothing but blue skies. Do I see? Oh. This pile of dust is all that's left of me. These are my ashes, my remains.
No, that's ground crap from the gas station, okay? Ah, come on, you're drunk. Let's get you home.
You know, I thought that if I kept moving, I could cheat death. That's what I thought. But that's not how it works, is it? Nah. Someday I'm gonna be just as dead as Lipschitz here. And what did I leave? What did Lipschitz leave? Disappointed hookers in Cancun is what he left. But not me. I got half a business. And some really memorable commercials. And you. A better daughter than this selfish asshole deserves. And I lost you, didn't I?
Dad.
You know, I really would like to change. I want to change.
No, you don't.
No. No, I don't. But I did break up with Sarah Jane.
Really?
Yeah. She wanted to keep the ring. So I said, go ahead. It's cubic zirconium anyway. So she threw it at me. Want it?
No, thank you.
That's too bad. It's the real deal. It cost me 28 grand.
Let me see that.
Hey, Barbie doll, Barbie, Barb. Barbara, have I touched anything? I mean, in your whole life, have I touched anything?
Look at me. What do you think?
I think you're a walking miracle. That's what I think. I just like to think it didn't all come from your mom.
Didn't.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
You nervous?
Nah. Not when you walk down the aisle as many times as I have. But you're the most beautiful bride I've ever seen. Ready?
Yeah.
Sun started shining the day that I opened my eyes and saw you, the way that you smile. And it's been a while now, but my heart grows stronger. I take a memory each moment I'm with you. I thank the stars for lining up for me, 'cause I know that you are my blessing. What a day to love you. I'm filled up, my heart is overflowing. What a day to love you.
I never thought I'd see them dance together.
I'm so glad your mom's okay. Of all your father's other wives, she was always my favorite. Did your father tell you? We're getting married again.
To each other?
Of course.
Well, third time's a charm.
Look at you. You're a knockout, honey.
Thanks.
Do you think I could get away with wearing white?
Hey there. Been looking for you.
Day's been kind of intense. I was just looking for some quiet.
You know, once I remember sneaking away from one of my weddings.
Guessing a bridesmaid was involved?
Maybe. It's our song. May I?
Yes, you may.
You're gonna love being married. There's nothing like it in the world.
Yeah.
Time stands still. As bodies rise to meet in the almost silent heat, anticipation. You feel a chill. It's cooler, it's your skin where my anxious lips have been a wild sensation. The moment is clear, there's nothing to fear. All the hurt that's been is left behind. I'm here with you now. I can't explain now. In a sea of change, you stayed on my mind. Just when I thought love was done, I saw a world inside you. You shone out brighter than the sun. Don't run at night, you won't be lied to. My world's inside. Breathless afterglow. All the things you still don't know make you crazy. You wanna take things one step at a time, but feeling so sublime make things hazy. The moment is clear, there's nothing to fear. All the hurt that's been is left behind. I'm here with you now. I can't explain now. In a sea of change, you stayed on my mind. Just when I thought love was done, I saw a world inside you. You shone out brighter than the sun. Don't run at night, you won't be lied to. My world's inside of you. And in the prism of my mind, things are coming into view. My world's inside. I think it's true. This love will take your heart away. Fill it up with something new. When I thought love was done, I saw a world inside you. You shone out brighter than the sun. It seems to me you're running to get past this. I haven't seen you much in town. Can't remember the places that you've been, but looking back won't slow you down. Did you find the things that matter most? The dreams you tried to chase, they were always right in front of you, standing face to face. Blue skies are sometimes hard to find. They hide behind the brightness from the sun. But billboard signs and high street towns can't explain what you've unwound. Little conversations you're having with yourself. Did you find the things that matter most? Those dreams you tried to chase, they were always right in front of you, standing face to face. All the things that matter most, the things you can't replace.